Kilian, welcome to Early Days.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite, Car.
I spend my whole life chasing you. When will you come home to me?
So today we're going to talk about Boltz. Really excited to get you on the pod. A lot of people have been asking for you. I just saw your recent AMA on Snacker News, so I think a lot of questions have been answered. But I'm curious to learn how you got started. I know Boltz was something that I don't know if it was you or a group of people in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, pseudonymous group of people. So it was back in 2018 actually. So the idea of Boltz started with in conjunction with the project I was leading back then. It was a very ambitious big project. We tried to pull off a decentralized exchange on top of the Network. Remember 2018? We're basically at we already know the outcome. It had to fail, right? Anyhow, so back then we saw the Lightning Network as like this, having this massive potential of being able to execute instantaneous trades, basically in real time, something that we simply couldn't do on chain with any chain really. So the concept of this payment channels was so new. Anyhow, we started with this project with a couple of guys, and Boltz pretty much evolved as a sidekick, as an add-on, as a band-aid to fix Lightning Network issues, because we pretty quickly figured out in order to reliably trade on this DEX by sending and receiving Lightning payments, you either run out of outbound or of inbound liquidity, like the typical issue of the Lightning Network that we still have until today. And that's basically how Boltz was born, as a band-aid to connect to this daemon that we built then and to manage liquidity for you. So that was the inception of Boltz. It, as an idea again, we had it like around 2018, but like proper launch on mainnet was in April 2019. And since then, Boltz is operational, up and running, so to speak. What we had was pretty cool, and a distinguishing factor until today is that we have a web app, a website, something super easy to use for folks to just go, punch in Boltz Exchange in your browser, on your phone, doesn't matter. And you can swap between Lightning and Bitcoin, the regular Bitcoin main chain. That was our main product, and still is our main product today, but for many, many years, the only product, right? So until 2023, we maintained Boltz. So this Lightning Exchange, the former main project, it died off in 2021. But we kept on maintaining Boltz because it showed organic growth. People were using it, so it's like, come on, we can't shut this down. So we might as well keep it and see where it goes. But we really only got around to go in full time with the three co-founders that worked on the same project before in 2023. Since 2023, basically, Boltz is a serious business. We even have a legal entity now. We have all the big boy stuff ready. And in 2023, we started actually adding new features, because then we had full time dedicated towards Boltz. So in 2023, we launched liquid swaps. So that was our first little bit directional shift from very basic primitive Lightning Bitcoin. That's it. Well, we don't do anything else. So, okay. On 2023, I don't know if you remember, but 2023 was a crazy summer in May. The mempool went through the roof. We were like at 600 sats per vbyte with all the ordinals craze
Yeah.
back then. Insane times. So we basically had this liquid integration already more or less ready to go. And that was basically our motivation to push it over the finish line, and we launched it within like a matter of, I think, 1.5 or 2 weeks. Adam Back was so excited we did all that crazy work in 2 weeks. It's not entirely true. It was already pre-done. Like 95% was like sitting there and was ready. We just needed this motivation. It's like, hey, Liquid is actually useful now that we have 600 sats per VByte on the main chain. Transaction cost like $100. Liquid like less than 10 cents. Actually, we really should look at this now. And we launched it as an alternative for Lightning nodes to rebalance their channels in high fee environments using Liquid instead. So the idea was very basic, and it clicked with people because everyone felt the pain. All major services had issues with their coins stuck in the mempool. You had no idea if they will ever get mined, especially if you had no way, for example, to bump the fee. It was horrible. So everyone, I think we launched it the right moment because people understood it. It was like, okay, it makes a lot of sense that when fees on the main chain are crazy expensive, to use Liquid instead to rebalance. And maybe we can talk a little bit about how that works. The flow is exactly the same. So usually Lightning nodes run out of inbound liquidity. Always. That's it. That's the scarce resource on the Lightning network, so to speak. And in order to counter that, what they do is rebalancing via swaps, submarine swaps, that's how it's called, pushing Lightning balance out and getting on-chain Bitcoin back. And like this, basically, they by pushing the Lightning funds from the local to the remote side of the channel, they have inbound liquidity again and can receive payments again. That's a very typical flow. Like 80% of the flow is like this. So since the way back on the main chain was super expensive, I said, okay, guys, why don't you use our new Liquid swaps? Now go to Liquid, basically do it again, and again, 5, 6, 10 swaps, up to a level where you're comfortable holding on Liquid, because Liquid is a little bit of a different animal. Can talk a little bit more about it in a bit. And once you have accumulated, for example, half a coin or a coin on Liquid, you swap out once back to the main chain. So basically introduce this new intermediary layer, Liquid, for channel rebalancing to not be hurt by the high fee environment on the main chain. And it clicked with people, and I never imagined the market to actually take this on so wildly and fiercely as it happened back then in May and June in 2023. And that was a little bit steering us into the direction on, okay, that was Liquid for Lightning swaps. Then we said, okay, we also need the Liquid to main chain swaps, and it's like gradually refining the product and making it better. And it did gear Boltz towards what we are now. We're saying we are a Bitcoin bridge. Yeah? So we do not ever want to touch anything that is not a Bitcoin layer. And by Bitcoin layer, we usually say, okay, this layer has to have Bitcoin as its monetary unit. There can't be anything else. And that also means especially there can't be any other shitcoin involved in order to pay fees, right? So we don't want neither us nor users basically need to hold anything else but Bitcoin or representation of Bitcoin on that layer. For example, on Liquid, it's called LBTC, Liquid Bitcoin. Everything has to be possible with LBTC. We don't want any Blockstream token to be forced on us. That's a no-go. And the third thing is basically that it has somewhat economic usage, which was not the case for Liquid. But we brought that, right? So in the case of Liquid, we basically started on a more or less empty network, but it was perfect for us because an empty network is great if you're trying to avoid high fees. And yeah, that was a little bit the start of our multi-layer journey, saying, okay, Boltz is this non-custodial Bitcoin bridge now. With Liquid, actually, we started seeing the power in conjunction with the Lightning Network. So it's not only useful to rebalance channels when fees are high. No, it's actually also useful for retail users, for regular plebs, so to speak, that want to have a Lightning wallet on their phone because they walk around in not only conferences but also stores and also online, try to pay as much as they can with Lightning. The options out there, in our opinion, were a little bit, black and white. You either had Phoenix, which is, best of class, largely not available in the States actually for the past couple of years. Now they're back, but I think SUSE was one of the only actual non-custodial Lightning wallets left in the United States for people to have easy, let's say, easy access to, especially when you were on an iPhone. And the rest was all custodial. So it was this black or white. So either you have this crazy technological person that understands all or most of the liquidity issues and how their channel state currently is, so to make sure you can always reliably make or receive payments, or you could go completely custodial, basically trusting the bank, most famously Wallet of Satoshi, and that's what I'm going with for my daily spending. So in our opinion, there was like the middle ground, there was none, right? So we came up with a concept that allows you to hold liquid Bitcoin in a wallet, and whenever you want to interact with Lightning, you swap into Lightning, and whenever you're receiving Lightning, you swap from Lightning back into Liquid, and that has the major advantage that the user and the phone and the app does not need to handle Lightning at all. Right? So it makes it incredibly simple. For users to deal with the Lightning Network, and that is the concept that is underpinning Agua nowadays, that is underpinning the Breeze SDK. They launched their own wallet with it. It's called Misty Breeze. It's very nicely done. I think from a UX perspective, Misty Breeze is top notch by now. Basically, you use that thing, you do not feel that you're even using Liquid. And this is exactly, I think, what users want. So as simple as it gets, and there's never an issue where you can't send or receive a payment. And I think cost-wise, it's pretty competitive if you compare it to other non-custodial wallets like Phoenix. So yeah, and then in the course of the last year, 2024, we added another Bitcoin layer. It's called Rootstock. It's another Bitcoin sidechain. Very similar but different than Liquid. So Rootstock also launched in 2018. So actually, the Lightning Network, Liquid, and Rootstock, the three of them, they all launched in 2018. And so we integrated that, and here we basically offer users a nicer way in and out, because getting in and out of sidechains always involves a wait time. In the case of Liquid, there's actually no good way to get out as a regular users. So we offered that for Rootstock as well. And now we're basically at the moment what we're looking is like, okay, what is next, right? So basically, what's the next layer that we're integrating? And I think we made our pick, and I'm personally very bullish about it, and it will be Arc. So Arc is one of the next big things that is happening on Bitcoin, and I'm not sure how many of your listeners are aware of it, but it's actually, it's not that far out. That's what I can say. It's not something we'll see in 2030 and we need 3 soft forks for it. None at all. Arc works as is on Bitcoin today, and I'm fairly confident we'll see it in production grade usage on mainnet this year. So it's not a moonshot that we're talking about here. Yeah, that's a little bit how Boltz came to be. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the founders. So OpenDex, that was the name of the Lightning Network DEX, with the attempt. The 3 co-founders, Carl, Michael, and I, we
was this in 2018, OpenDex?
OpenDex
or was this in
2017? We started a bit earlier, exactly. Well, the concept was around 2017, and really development work was all over 2018. And then end of 2018, Michael joined the team, and more or less immediately started working on Boltz, because we kind of hired him to say, okay, you need to build this service that somehow fixes our liquidity. So he did that. He wrote the first line of Boltz, and he is CTO today, and basically lord of code. And so that's what basically the founding team was already. We found each other already back then. While working.
Were y'all one of the first nodes online, or do you remember
Lightning,
what that was
yes.
like? Yeah, Lightning.
Yeah. We run one of the oldest. So I think it was LND version 0.42 or something, whatever the first version was, you could recklessly, I'm not sure if there was a reckless flag somewhere that you had to set in order to fund it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. We had no idea what we were doing, but it was, all these channel backups. We were not aware of the risk that actually is attached to a Lightning node, like the effort you want to do in order to not lose any state and have it. But yeah, those were fun times. I remember we bought stickers online. That was one of the first things we did. And whenever a Lightning payment succeeded, back then the failure rate was so high. Whenever a payment succeeded, you would be like stand up and shout out, it's like, "Hey, it worked!" Like that's that was a little bit the vibe.
What was
No mobile wallets. It was just command line.
what was
Lightning
the
payments.
what were the different implementations like back then? Because it was just L&D at that time, or how did you
LND.
guys support like core Lightning going forward and like all the implementations that came online
Oh
later?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, how
So
did you guys support all those? Yeah.
back then it was pretty much L&D. It was the only, even though technic L&D definitely was the first that said, okay, you can now recklessly try it on mainnet. CLN joined a bit later, as far as I remember. But simply, I think L&D simply won because they had the nicer interface. So even though it was command line interface, LNCLI is kind of nice to use. So I think they won over a lot of the early crowd by having a nicer CLI interface. Period. But that's what mattered back then. It was more beautiful, and also maybe the choice of having a gRPC was better. And we ran L&D with one only node, bolts attached to one only node until 2023. And
Oh
that
wow.
was, yeah, and that increasingly became an issue because we didn't think of, it was, again, this was a hobby project, right? So we didn't think of, Kubernetes kind of, we need to scale those things. No, it was running on a little VPS and with one node only, and L&D needed to go down, do its database compaction, and then Boltz was offline for 8 hours. It was just like that. People were opening channel to us like wildly. Our L&D at some point had 1,800 channels open, which
Wow.
was just, yeah, I think by channel count we were like number 3 in the network or so. It was
Oh my
was insane.
gosh.
So we only understood all the technical limitations that a Lightning node has on, like, did this sound fast enough basically to handle the database that L&D was backed with, and the whole node would slow down after a while, and Michael developed a feeling for it when it was time to restart the node and do database compaction, otherwise it will deadlock and crash at some point. So it's really a very personal relationship we have with our L&D node. But we pretty quickly felt the need to have a second one. Now then in 2023, when we said, okay, this is now a professional service, we are targeting a 99.9% uptime. We are being used by other professional actors out there. We cannot just be offline randomly for 10 hours. This is just a no-go. So Michael did adjust the entire backend to also play nice with CLN. Our backend is tightly connected to orchestrate all the swaps with the APIs of these nodes. So once that was done, we launched our CLN node and gradually grew the node over the course of 1.5 years until it finally last year, November-ish, reached a state where we can use it fully in production. So before it was still L&D and CLN was doing some things, but only mainly taking over when L&D failed, which was a lot back then. So it was very nice as a backup. But that both are on par, I would say less than half a year. So that might surprise some. It takes some time to grow a node in the network, to attract liquidity, to have a nice central position, to be a good routing node in the end, where people want to open channel to because you're a lucrative destination and there's
Right.
money moving and they can earn money via routing fees. That takes a while. Also, CLN L&D had and still has a lot of technical issues, as CLN the same way. So CLN only really fixed, and don't laugh now, CLN only really fixed paying Lightning invoices back in November. And that was one of the main trigger points where we then switched, where you could reliably pay invoices. It sounds very funny, but that only really works since a little bit more than half a year, and since then we have it in production use. And basically, like like a load balancer, this goes there, this goes there. When one fails, doesn't matter. It's automatically being redirected to traffic, and things move on. And so we have almost no downtime now, which is great.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like over time you guys seen the benefit of running core lightning and still support L&D. Is there any advantages between the two, or do y'all just look at it as a offering now as for the network?
For the network, well, our L&D still has this very nice central position. So that's something you just can't copy, right? So it's basically like I said, like starting a new node and making it become like an attractive routing node takes some time. And our L&D basically has now more than 6 years of being a very attractive routing node. That's hard to replicate. From a technical point of view, CLN indeed has major advantages if you run it at scale. So for the pleb runner at home, L&D is still a better choice, I think, because it's easier to use. There's more tooling out there. There's more UIs. There's more stuff. But if you run it as a professional, like at scale, as a professional business, CLN is really growing on us because it is just rock solid. It's robust, not a single crash. It's mainly related to the very robust database backend that it has. It has a Postgres database backend since get-go. And L&D is struggling a lot with its existing database backend. It's called Boltz. They are now moving slowly to Postgres as well, but it's taking time, right? So that is a major advantage. Also, the second thing I like a lot, or we like a lot about CLN, is its plugin system. So unlike L&D, where all major functions are in the daemon itself, with CLN, if you are missing something, you can pretty much write it your own, given you have the technical skills, obviously. But you can write it your own. For example, when we discovered that that CLN is really bad at making payments, Michael wrote our own payment plugin. Took him like a month or so.
Oh wow!
But we basically, it allowed us to do some payments with CLN at least, or we use something called hold invoices for our swaps. In L&D, it's natively supported in L&D itself. Was just merged to the main code base, and that's it. On CLN, there was a plugin available, but it was not really maintained and not very good. So we could write our own for our very own, what we needed for our own requirements. So those two things, rock solid database, rock solid operations, because it just, you can even have a cluster and the plugin system. That's really two major advantages that CLN has. Yeah.
When you guys were getting started, and then you said there was this like 5-year gap before y'all started the entity and started going. What you guys were obviously working at that time, but was there something, was it just over time, the growth, and then what you saw from the ecosystem as far as the Lightning Network growing, and then just the business itself taking off? Like, what was it that made you finally take that step?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was a combination of a lot of factors, personal as well as ecosystem. So on a personal note, from a personal perspective, it was just like the three of us after OpenDex, we considered it failed and abandoned it. For 2 years, we basically did different things, right? So for me, it was like focusing on family. The other guys did some other stuff. And it was just, then COVID hit. And it was somehow a weird situation where you didn't have like this builder drive. But then I think it was around 2022, like summerish, we had a call again, like Carl, Michael, and I, and we looked at Boltz, said, "Hey, how's Boltz doing, by the way? Let's check out Boltz." Michael was the one maintaining it on the site for all these years, but basically 99% him keeping it alive. And we saw it grew, right? So we was like, okay, this is not Lambo land, but by any means, but it's organically growing without us adding any features. Pure maintenance mode with a ugly AF website. So how is that even possible? So there is some organic demand there and I think we shouldn't ignore it. And then the engineer was like, okay, guys, what do we do with our lives now? So basically reach a point from personal side, all of us like, okay, we don't have anything to do. We need to decide what to do now, including me. I was like the driver a little bit then. It's like, hey, I really want to do something again. And so say, okay, guys, we should give this a shot. I mean, look at this. It's growing. The Lightning Network is not dead yet. I think people know Boltz already, even though it's this little side project. So let's give it a shot. It was as simple as that. It's like, okay, we have to give this a shot, and that's where we picked it up.
Wow. Was there anything that was there anything within the first year or two that you guys thought was like, oh crap, like it was not easier than you thought, was definitely where you're like, okay, this is actually going to be something, and it's time to take that leap of quitting the day jobs or that next step before you take that leap of faith.
Yeah, we didn't have, so what it made it easier, I think we didn't have day jobs. So that was really a very luxurious situation the three of us were in. And additionally, also something special, I guess, is we got together, the three of us, because we had enough capital to run Boltz and give this a shot for, at least 2-3 years.
Okay.
And we said like and we also decided to not take VC funding, at least in, the first year or two, and see how far we get. Basically, that was the idea. Let's see how far we can get without outside help. And it was easier in terms of, okay, like I said, like Boltz started, it's a very unconventional way to start a Bitcoin startup. It's basically already there, right? So it's already, you just take it and already take its history and its growth and its customer base and to start working on it. It was not this new idea we had, the idea we already had like many years back. But what was definitely not so easy was basically running this on our own. So we tried everything to reduce costs. Fun fact, we did actually move to self-hosting. So it was actually running in our garage, so to speak, for 2 years to save on the cloud bill, because the more services we added was actually then quite resource heavy, where we said, okay, like we have to save these, $3,000-4,000 a month is a lot of money for us. So we do self-hosting. And so it was me like mounting servers and like getting it all set up. And it was actually pretty fun. It really felt like this little bit of these Silicon Valley stories in your garage, where you have these computers running.
That's cool.
That was quite nice, but also more difficult than I expected in the end, because then when we started growing, like 2023, we're actually, we're growing quite a bit. Our uptime became much more important than it was before. Like I said before, a Boltz down for 8 hours was just a regular thing. We did at least once every 2 weeks, right? But now we couldn't do that anymore. Wallets were depending on us, and this is just a no-go. So having that self-hosted, you can imagine the stress it puts on you if you're starting to think about redundancy in this place, and electricity fallback, internet fallback, and all that stuff. That was actually pretty stressy. And of course, the stuff always fails in the worst moment, So that was definitely an experience. And we only recently moved to a professional data center operation. So now,
nice.
Boltz is not self-hosted anymore. Simply because I need to sleep.
Yeah, totally.
I sleep much better knowing now that this is in a building where there's really professional operations with multiple connections and
security
generators and security. Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we have some of those here in Austin where you got to go through some security guards and then multiple layers of concrete. It's pretty awesome. I always often wonder with with Lightning companies and how they initially started, especially with like just getting the band together in the garage like you described. But like, how did you guys think through all the legal and all the with all that kind of stuff? Because there's, and you don't have to share too much because privacy and stuff. But how did y'all think through that and those kind of hula hoops and gotchas and stuff like that Yeah, did you guys take a lot of time thinking through it? Did you guys ask around the ecosystem? Did you guys talk to people involved?
Yes. So we did definitely. So first, I mean, the first step for us was to really settle on the decision that we want to have a legal entity. So Boltz until 2023 didn't have a legal entity. It was just a project. It was just there. Yeah.
We finally got a sponsor. Can you believe it? Vintech. They're a legal firm out of Dallas, Texas, who Club Lab uses. We actually use Jim, who is this amazing gentleman, Central Texas lawyer, straight shooter, and he does legal expertise, and he has this amazing thing called Vintech. It's a place where you can get access to legal forms. You don't have to use ChatGPT to spin up some kind of gibberish. You can actually get these legal forms that are there already pre-built. You get access to his consulting 2 times a month. There's 25% off all his legal work that he applies to the network of attorneys that he knows. There's no long-term commitment. It's all for $199 a month. He also has this other thing called Vintech Plus, which is 3 hours of additional services per month, which is contract review, drafting, LLC, corporate formation, all that kind of stuff. That's for $999 a month. And it's affordable business legal stuff for startups, founders like yourself. Use the code PLEBLAB at myvintech.com and get 10% off your subscription. And a big thanks to Jim and the Vintech team for backing the builder community and helping us push things forward. All right, let's get back to the show.
And that was pretty cool because you save yourself all that stress. And up until 2023, also we didn't come out, so to speak, with our faces and names.
Right.
So finally, it was like later on at Bitcoin conference when I was like, hey, by the way, I'm this pseudonym behind Boltz, and Michael was the same, and I was like, you guys, and so we only decided to do that in 2023 when we settled on having a legal entity and run this as a company, because we identified the first step basically was identifying the need for having a company. And it was definitely there. We couldn't get around it anymore. It started with the Liquid Federation. We joined the Liquid Federation of Blockstream in order to have a say in, and the development of the Liquid network, which that was one of our main products on. And for that, you need to be a company. That was already the first thing. I was like, okay. Then we started onboarding integrations. So we have an API, not only the website that you can use, but also in wallets. And these integrations, some of them, they want to sign contracts. They want to sign contracts with a company, not with some dude, right? So that basically this need of being a company, being a business, it was just a given. And then we started searching, okay, where do we do this? And of course, we talked to a lot of industry players. I talked personally to Roy from Breeze. He's a good friend. All the old connections that I had to Samson, to I don't know, to him. Like basically like, okay, where are you set up? What is a good place? Then not too much later, the Tornado Cash Samurai thing happened. So we're like, oh shit, like we are somehow at the intersection of all this. So we really got one thing that was very evident and very clear. We got to steer clear of the US. That was unfortunately a very, very important point for us to not have any touching points with the US at all. So, no VPSs, no email, no nothing. And it's actually it's not that easy to not use any US-based product at all, but we went full hardcore and like moved to either self-host. So we basically self-host everything apart from email. That was our solution. It's like, okay, we just gotta run it, everything ourselves. I mean, email is impossible either. It's unfortunately impossible to self-host if you don't want to have one guy updating spam filter rules all day. So that was the only thing we said, okay, that one. And it's not business critical for us at all. I mean, we barely send email. Now it's more with support, but email is not a business critical thing nowadays. And the rest we self-hosted, period. So we self-hosted the server, all the servers, our chat, communication, code, all. And that was I think it was a good decision, and I love it that we did that until today, because it just gave us this security, peace of mind, and the flexibility to go where we wanted to go. And in the end, we looked at the typical places. Switzerland, since we're all European, we're looking at Switzerland. You're looking at Gibraltar. We're looking at Malta. You look at all these, maybe Kazakhstan. Then you start going BVI, Panama. But in the end, it was El Salvador that came out top. So we
Oh,
finally
wow.
incorporated in El Salvador simply because we saw in the early 2023 a large push from the Bitcoin office. I was actually in contact with Stacy back then, where she said, "Hey guys, come here. We want you here." No, we didn't figure out all the legal stuff because it's literally just unfolding as we speak. But she convinced me in the end that it's the thing that you want is you want to be in a place where, where you're wanted, right? So where people want you there. Um, and that was definitely the case in El Salvador. So we said, okay, let's do it. The bad thing was there was no blueprint. So nobody did this journey before us. So there was not a single online resource you could rely on how to found a company in El Salvador as a foreigner, for example. So my Spanish was okay back then, so I started digging through so much stuff, and basically, in the end, ended up finding someone, then flying over there and figuring out the process. And yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It was much easier than expected. You sit down there, get your tax ID. That's what you need as the only real main requirement to found a company in El Salvador. And then the bureaucracy took. We did a couple of mistakes, so we had to actually restart. So I think best case it would have taken like 3 months. For us, it was like 6 because we fucked up. But happens,
Yeah.
happens. And we made it. And since July, August, I think our official founding date is 19th of July 2023. We have Boltz SATCV, registered in San Salvador, El Salvador. And so far, it's been great. So we actually did it. Yeah, exactly. Why we did screw up was because we went hardcore mode. So we found an agent, actually an American guy who was leading the team of El Salvadoran lawyers and accountants that did all the magic. We made it that we have a Bitcoin address in our company's constitution as the capital backing the company, because Bitcoin law was enacted back then. And but as you can imagine, the authorities, especially tax authorities and all the people involved from the government side, had no idea about Bitcoin, but they knew they had to accept it because it was legal tender. We finally convinced them to accept the Bitcoin address, with Bitcoin back then worth more than 2,000 USD, which was the minimal share capital that you had to put in the company. It usually came in as a bank check from an El Salvadoran bank. And it's like, okay, I know El Salvador banks are a nightmare. Will be a headache. This will be 6 months of bureaucracy. Can we avoid that somehow? Because we actually don't need a bank account right now, and if I can avoid it, then let's try. So we tried it. In the end, it went through. So until today, we do not have a corporate bank account. Because we actually managed to have our company's incorporation go through without it. Bitcoin as share capital, and we paid our tax directly with Lightning all these years. So there's basically
That's
a tax
incredible.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, but very manual. Again, we're talking 2023, when you walked up and, when one of our accountants on the ground walked up to the tax office and said, "Hey guys, we want to pay in Bitcoin." The solution they put him, basically provided him on the spot, was like a Chivo terminal. Remember Chivo, the government
Yeah.
wallet back then? On a physical POS there, showing a Lightning invoice for the dollar amount, whatever we had to pay. He would send me a photo of this back to me. I'd be at the computer decoding the invoice and paying it with our Lightning node. So that's how we paid taxes for a very long time until now. Basically, due to the IMF deal, the whole thing was walked back, and unfortunately, the tax authorities don't accept Bitcoin directly anymore. And I say directly because, of course, there's a workaround for it. So there are services that basically allow you to still do that, basically pay tax for you, so to speak, and you pay them on Lightning. So that still works today. So while I do not like the IMF deal at all, nothing really changed from an operational perspective for us, and that is great. We have not been harassed by any audit or any
Yeah.
other thing like that. So far I don't have anything bad to say about El Salvador at all. Like, good thing to say is I don't need a bank account, which is great.
Has anybody written up like a kind of like a template of how to go do that? Like kind of what you just
Yeah.
described? No? Do they have?
Maybe I think there are services now. So there is English speaking services now that have basically say, hey, company registration 4,000 USD, and they give you pretty much a list of things that is needed. But the things like now is already everything is different. So now you have a different entity type. So ours is Boltz SADCV, which was the standard entity type for small businesses since the 80s in El Salvador. But now they have a SAS, which is a simplified version of this that allows you to do everything online for all. So all the flights I was taking to El Salvador is basically now, as far as I understand, not needed anymore, because you get an electronic ID and can sign things with electronic signatures. Imagine that.
Oh wow.
In the incorporation process. So I think our guide been null and void because but what I want to say as well is I actually gave that feedback, right? So we had a direct communication channel with the Bitcoin office, and that was my main thing. It's like, guys, let us pay Bitcoin the taxes in Bitcoin. Please let me pay it online in the Hacienda in the tax online platform, so I don't have to send this guy physically into the office with the Chivo terminal. This is so stupid. Like, come on, please let us do this. Also, the incorporation process, I wrote a list like what they could improve, and looks like they did a lot of that now with this new entity type. Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's switch gears back to the Lightning Network because I want to ask you about kind of like the state of it and where do you think it's going and that kind of thing, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about the privacy stuff because I see a lot of a lot of people online say that Lightning Network's not private or it's synonymous private or all these different terms. How private do you really think it is, Kilian? You've been using it very long, and people try to say that it's not very private or it's private for the sender and not the receiver, or vice versa. How private do you think the Lightning Network is?
That's pretty good. It's pretty private. I have to say, I am astonished by people who claim otherwise. I mean, it somehow proves that they really didn't look into it that deeply. And I think a lot of usage of the Lightning Network is for its privacy characteristics, to be honest. Boltz itself is being used by people that value privacy, right? So, not doing shady things. I'm saying valuing privacy. They just want to transact without being followed by chain analysis companies that are very good in decoding what's happening on the Bitcoin blockchain. So state of Lightning today is very, very, very good standard privacy. We as professional operator are not able to tell where incoming Lightning payments come from. That's it, right? So that's the status quo. That being said, the other side, the receiver privacy, it's not there, because right now a regular Bolt 11, that's how it's called, Lightning invoice, contains the exact receiving node or receiving node's pub key, so that you basically can go to Ambassador, to any Lightning Network Explorer, and see where the payment goes, and that's obviously a flaw, right? But the good thing is, Lightning Network developers, protocol developers, know about this and were working silently under under the not really being known by the general public and not by the Bitcoin community. They worked on a specification called Bolt 12 that basically adds that missing piece. It applies the same concept that provides privacy when you receive a Lightning payment to when sending it out. And that works in a way that how does the privacy in Lightning work today? It's basically this onion concept of like, oh, I open, if I route a payment, the payment goes through me. I open it, I see where it comes from, I see where it goes next, but I have no idea, and there's no tangible proof, and I cannot be sure at all that this was the actual sender, was 3 hops back, and I have no idea if the destination is the actual destination, or if the destination is 3 hops further down. And that's how privacy on Lightning works. That basically everyone is just one hop to the left, one hop to the right, one hop to the left, and that's it. And that is the case for receiving and for sending, and for receiving that obviously not, because it's this clear text information in invoices. So what's being changed now with Boltz 12 as part of a lot of other things that Boltz 12 does. It does just that. It gives you a destination and an invoice, but you cannot be sure that this is the actual destination. Most likely it's actually not, right? So if there's this onion thing, you open and say, oh, I have to forward it to this node, but this node is probably forwarded again, and there are probably even some fake hits in there. And also to add privacy, there are some fake routing information you can put in there. But the same concept is being applied of I only know the next hop, but not more. And like this, in my opinion, maybe there's a technical detail I'm missing now, but it should be more or less the same privacy that you're getting for sending now too. And Boltz 12 is not a moonshot. It's here right now. We at Boltz support it. We, in cooperation with Breeze, actually made it happen in Misty Breeze. So you can send and receive with Boltz 12 on Misty Breeze today, and it gives you this privacy. So
that's amazing.
That's something. So we are really pushing for Boltz 12 adoption for that very reason, and also because Boltz 12 natively provides the same functionality that Lightning addresses do nowadays, right? So Lightning addresses, I don't want to create a new invoice every single time I want to receive something with a specific amount and blah blah blah, and it's an active process, and I have to send it to you in order for you to pay it. I have a reusable thing that looks like an email address. It could be Kilian at boltz.fun. Yeah, that is my Boltz 12 address, and I give that to you, and you can send any amount you want. You can send there, and all the privacy things we just talked about, called blinded paths, by the way, is already baked in. I don't even have to think about it. It's it's all there. You have no idea where my node is.
So let me ask you another question though, because I'm curious about this, and this could be related to it or not. How are the big node operators, like even yourself, will they be able to parse together that information if one of these hops are a part of that process?
I mean, it's statistically, you might be able to correlate some stuff, but never with 100% certainty. That's the point, right? So you simply cannot. The only entity that is certain is the receiver, right? So the receiver opens, like, oh, I'm the final destination. Great, money is mine. Bam, redeem. So there are a couple of research papers out there, how you could potentially try to de-anonymize the Lightning network, but you had to do that constantly. You had to really try to, like, for every single payment, which always takes different routes, it's basically, I think all these attacks, they only make sense if you know the rough path already. You already have a lot of information about the payment, and then you can try to find out, okay, this, for example, Boltz, we got this invoice and this timestamp, and then there was this payment happening on this other node that we have on the route. So probably it's related to that swap. So timing attacks and all that. But
so it would require a lot of work. It would require a lot of work that would be kind of pointless.
A lot of work. Exactly. Pointless in the terms of, because you're targeting one specific payment, or one specific payment route, or one specific destination. You have to put in a lot of work in order to learn something about it, and I'm fairly sure that you won't learn everything about it. But like something like de-anonymizing the Lightning network, forget about it. Like it's not. Yeah.
So it's not as simple as like on-chain addresses where you have like an OFAC list or something like that. It's not that simple then, is what we're
no.
Right. Okay.
You can't enforce an OFAC list on the Lightning network technically. You can't. Right. So that's just because you don't know the origins. As simple as that.
Okay. So I guess the other question is, and and this is me just being really, really dumb. So don't take it as something else. If like Boltz 12 addresses became a thing, right? Like you said, Kilian at boltz.fun, whatever. um, if that was a part of an OFAC list at some point on the that's not possible, right? That LN
Um,
address.
so if you are a US entity, and the Office of Foreign Asset Control tells you this Lightning, this Bolt 12 address, you're not allowed to send money to it, then you have to follow that. Basically, you say, okay,
Oh,
whenever
really?
someone is trying to create a swap and punches in that address, I'm not gonna go and resolve the Bolt 12 address
Oh,
invoice under
wow.
the hood. I actually don't do it. But I don't see that as a bad thing at all, because in that way it actually gives you a way to comply with the law. But don't forget, Lightning is permissionless, right? So I can create any address I want. I can create a Bolt 12 offer without any address attached to it. I can change it anytime. I can switch to another any time. At the same way, the Bitcoin addresses that currently are on the OFAC list, I don't know, I think it's 170 addresses, right? So people that hold these addresses, they probably switched to new addresses already. I mean, look at them; they're mostly empty and or dormant, right? So the Lightning Network and Bolt 12 allows you to do the exact same thing, to just switch to a new Bolt 12 address, and you're good to go. But if the OFAC list tells you don't send it
Oh, okay,
there,
I see what you're
don't
saying.
send it there. Yeah,
Yeah, I see
got
what you're
it.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, so if the law comes down and says, hey, this address or is on the list, then you legally have to comply with that because you're running a service that's, that's just a part of
Should be
being
compliant
with
with
the law.
with
Yeah, with
US
the
law,
law.
exactly.
But on the other side of that, Bitcoin is decentralized and permissionless, so they can. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just create new addresses. It won't apply to anyone. It won't apply to plug payments,
Yeah.
and to any, actually technically to any company that is not a US company, but
It turns out they have to go out and do some real investigating like the old days.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
You can't just push devs around and tell them to do your own work. That's what always
Yeah.
bothered me about that. Is like, let's go bully some devs to do the actual work for us instead of actually going out and doing some real investigating. I never
They
understood
buy it
that.
off
I
the
never.
shelf, I think. They just buy the software from some chain analysis
Yeah, it's
company
it's
and click a couple of buttons and say, okay, it says so.
yeah.
And I think the results of these tools is, I mean, it's dubious at best. It's an absolute black box. I doubt maybe some US authorities have insight in the code, actually know
No.
how these tools compute their scores and come to the result like, oh, this is a bad address. So how did you determine that? To a regular user, definitely is absolute opaque. You have no, you can't tell.
Yeah,
Bad.
they always blame North Korea, and it's like, why don't you just go
Oh yeah.
invade North Korea? It's like, go invade them. What's stopping anybody from invading North Korea? No one. It's like, so they have nukes. They probably don't even have nukes. Go invade them. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand it.
Uh,
Anyways, let's switch gears one more time. So
yeah.
let's talk about the liquid stuff, because I think that's really fascinating. A lot of people either hate on liquid, or they used to hate on liquid, or they want you to use something else like Fedi or eCash, or one of these other dozen L2s or whatever. Yeah, I remember liquid when no one was using it in 2018, and it didn't have a use case for anything. And then over time, I think you're right. Around 2023 is when everybody was like, "Oh, there is actually a use case for liquid." Turns out
Coincidence?
it only took 5 years.
Yeah.
And I actually think, believe it or not, like, this is actually a really good use case for liquid. But can you talk a little bit about that? I know you talked about it at the beginning of the show, but like, talk about why this is actually a good use case for liquid.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we were not convinced either. I mean, obviously, that was a reason why we had a PR open that said liquid swaps written by Michael in 2022. And we didn't touch it until May 2023. Because it's like, yeah, cool. And now what? Like, there's one transaction in the block, and that per block on liquids. Like, we are not driving anyone to liquid just by having a liquid. It was really this necessity of the fee spike that made things happen. And I think without it, and without also us pushing the product out in that specific moment, I don't know if things would have gone the exact same way, right? So, the narrative of Liquid was just always very unclear. So, Liquid is just sidechain, cool. It has cool cryptographic stuff, and Adam Back can talk about it for ages, and bulletproofs and range proofs and confidential transactions. But in the end, it was always like, oh, Blockstream is behind it. It was always a downer, like it's a Blockstream network, and if they switch it off, they switch it off. And also, I think it was just not clear what you can do with it, because they had like, you have asset issuance, you have privacy, it's still Bitcoin, and you can get in, but you can't get out. And so it was always like, I don't know, it was like this octopus that didn't know where all the tentacles, what they had to do. It was not very clear. And by giving it, at that moment, a very clear use case as a way to escape Bitcoin and basically take this, lane on the side that is liquid. And here comes the important part, in my opinion, temporarily, right? So you want to do that for a specified either period of time or with an amount threshold. And that's something we pushed from the very beginning. And I think that's where also the Blockstream control, and it's like, it's a permission network. It's a federation of 15 functionaries, where this started to make sense to people say, okay, of course, it's not for my lifetime savings. Of course, I don't move in there with like 10 coins and YOLO. No, it is this network that I use temporarily, because it avoids me to touch the main chain. And that's actually what we build layers for in the end, right? So we want to avoid touching the main chain, or even have benefits over the main chain, namely with faster payments. That was then a second thing. So we, as Boltz, and then part of the Liquid Federation, were really pushing. We were one of the pushers for for our use case, basically for the payment use case. It's like, our asset issuance is all nice, and they continued working on some parts there, but what we need is zero conf to be safe. Why is that? Because we have Agua and Misty Breeze that need to pay in a store, and this lightning payment should complete within 5 seconds. And end to end. And we can only get there if you make zero conf safe on Liquid. So we as Boltz, actually the outcome, remember, the swap goes from Liquid to Lightning, and then we pay the stores a Lightning invoice. We need to accept this without a confirmation on a Liquid block, because a Liquid block only happens every minute. 1 minute is a very long time in a store, right? So that can't be. So that's something we push for a system to happen, and many iterations on that to actually keep ZeroConf safe. There were also a couple of screw ups there, but shit happens. We work with them, and that was really our focus on making Liquid useful for the channel rebalancing use case and for the wallet use case. And I think that drove many more people towards the network than also for other things like maybe USDT, maybe asset issuance, like the mining bonds that Blockstream issued themselves, or other stablecoins like Maxa is pretty big, I think. This only came later after Liquid clicked on people with this specific payment use case first. So I think the narrative around Liquid changed after it actually solved the problem. It's as simple as that, right? Before it didn't solve any problem, and that was a pressing problem that everyone had, including companies. Remember the initial vision of Liquid? It was exchange
securities. It was like securities.
And also exchange-to-exchange transactions. So the initial pitch in 2018 was exchanges should integrate Liquid to transfer assets between themselves. So it was really this exchange network that didn't materialize at all because there was no need. Turns out there was no need for exchanges to rebalance things. Or they
I think Tieto was trying to build something too back then that never panned out. I forget what it was called.
He built
I forget what it was. Fuji,
He built a couple of things. But Marina was a wallet. He built actually a couple of important infrastructure too, though. So while he built his products, he also created libraries that we still use until today in our web app.
Okay.
Like when we do a Liquid transaction in order to verify that, for example, the liquid address that we get from Boltz is actually correctly set up for the atomic swap user type library from Sierra from back in the day. So he, as an external contributor, not coming from Blockstream, actually created very important libraries for liquid that we couldn't do our things otherwise with.
Yeah. It's so real quick. I want to get your thoughts on channels and management and that kind of stuff, because people around the space talk about how channels are still a pain point, and when they're running Lightning nodes. Do you think people will get around to actually trying to figure out like what's the best? I'm trying to explain this technically, but I'm not very technical. What do you think we'll get around to finding a much more efficient way to running channels much more efficiently, I guess, is probably the best way to explain it in the future.
For retail plebs, something
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Okay. I think we already found the way to do it. It just needs to be accepted by the community, and that is that the regular person that wants to run a Lightning node in order to be a routing node and earn fees of it is not going to happen. Period.
Oh, really? Wow.
So
Tell me why.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
listeners might not like that.
No,
what I will
let's hear
say,
it.
but let's be controversial now. I think it's we have to accept the hard fact that in order to be a reliable routing node, to be a reliable node to be used for receiving and sending payments, needs professional dedicated operation. There's no script in the world, and no magic secret software that can fix this for you. But let me emphasize, I'm saying routing node, basically a node that is in the middle of the network that tries to achieve what we did, basically be very central on the network with a lots of channels and a lot of volume going through it to earn off the yield on the satoshis earned for each and every forward. That's what I mean. I'm not saying not using the Lightning Network. I think we will pretty much move towards, and we are in full swing already, to a Lightning Network where the edges are the end users, meaning that end users have this one or maybe two or three channels with service providers. They kind of pay to be their connection into the Lightning Network. Most famously pioneered by Phoenix, by Essence Phoenix wallet, which has one channel and one channel only that is between your phone and the Phoenix node. And the phone basically is simply using that channel to send out and to receive. And if there's a top up needed because I don't have enough liquidity, Phoenix is handling it for you. I think we will, for most people, this will be the way to go. Let it be a node on the phone, or let it be a home node that you're running 24/7. Because it doesn't require any specialized operation, and someone else can take over the heavy lifting for you, because the heavy lifting is taken over by the node that is providing the connection for you to make sure they always have enough inbound liquidity to always reliably receive. It's as simple as that. I don't want to take care of that. On the flip side, you have semi-professional operators, but still there will be edges. For example, merchants that accept Lightning payments. I think the vision early on was the same. They run their node, and then they have this little script that do it manually. They open and close channels, and then they will do stuff. But no, they don't, and they don't want. What they want is they just want to receive payments. So what will happen for them is the same way. Either it is this one channel with a service provider that manages liquidity for you, or this 1-2 channels that you have with random nodes in the network, and you use a service like ours or like Lightning Lab Loop to automatically handle the liquidity in the channels for you. But you're still at the edge of the network. You basically should see close to zero routing volume through your node, because you're just not an attractive professional routing node. And it's especially essential for nodes that are unidirectional. That's something I hate because I oversaw it myself. I overlooked the fact that Lightning, the network from a technology perspective, is just inherently bad for unidirectional flow. It's just it, right? So I need bidirectional flow for Lightning to make sense. If I have unidirectional flow, like a merchant, only receiving, or people are only paying me.
Yeah.
I need to pay out at some point to get back inbound liquidity again. Otherwise, I cannot receive anymore, right? And then
Right.
you build this tool for this merchant in order to do it for them, and they pay you for the service. We actually went even one step further. So we built a tool, BTC Pay Server. Most of your listeners should know it's like a open source, very famous
Right.
payment processor that is natively being built on Bitcoin that you can run yourself or run it in the cloud. And a lot of merchants use it a lot. But most BTC Pay servers out there just have Bitcoin on-chain enabled, which is not great because it's usually $10 that I want to pay for my VPN subscription or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And what is the reason why there's only on-chain enabled? Because a VPN provider, even though albeit technical, they really don't want to deal with running
No Lightning. Yeah.
yeah. So what we built for them is a plugin that says, okay, either you have your own node, you have this one channel, and we'll manage it for you. So whenever you run out of inbound liquidity, we do a swap, and you get it back in your Liquid wallet, in your main chain wallet. We automate it all for
Nice.
you, and it's doing all that. And then even the second step, if you even want to avoid the Lightning node altogether, you're also welcome to do so. We just do swaps. And that's actually becoming pretty popular right now. And we convinced our own, we have a VPS provider where we run our public endpoint through, and they already accepted Bitcoin. And I was like, nice, you accept Bitcoin, we can pay you Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin company is actually a requirement for us to use you, but you don't accept Lightning it. And I was bothering them for a month and until they installed our plugin and now accepting Lightning via Boltz swaps, because for them it was click, 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 next, done. Right, and what the plugin does, whenever someone wants to pay, it shows a Boltz swap invoice. They the user, their clients pay in Lightning, and then it swaps to, for example, Liquid, and they have it in Liquid. And then automated even say, okay, if I have half a coin in Liquid, swap it up to the main chain, and it automatically ends up in their BTC Pay main chain wallet. And I really like that because they don't have to take care of anything. We do it for them, right? So those are these little bits and pieces that were maybe controversial a while back, but I think now it's an accepted fact that this is how Lightning will evolve. The same way Revolut, as a fintech company, doesn't, seem to have the in-house knowledge and talent to run a Lightning infrastructure themselves. Where it's like, well, how? I mean, they can hire whomever they want, but they don't want to do that, so they go with Lightspark, right? Even Coinbase, I mean, Coinbase is a different example, but Coinbase also uses Lightspark. So they're basically outsourcing all this. And I think now the others, like Kraken or KX, at least some of them, they're like, shit, why did we do this on our own? It's you gotta accept that there will be fewer professional players in the network, and because of that, and that's might not be ideal for the initial vision of Lightning, of this super decentralized network, but it makes the network function much better. These payments between the bigger, well-connected nodes, they have a failure rate below 1%. Your personal node at home, 50-50, right? So
yeah, that's amazing. Gosh, I could talk to you for hours. You know so much about the Lightning Network, Kilian. It's amazing. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just one last question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Where do you see the Lightning Network going here in the next 24, 18 months, 12 months? A lot of people try to be bearish about the Lightning Network these days, saying there's better options out there. But I'm super bullish on the Lightning Network. I absolutely love the Lightning Network. I came into Bitcoin because of the Lightning Network. Where do you see it headed, and how bullish are you on it?
Yeah. What I just said is not being bearish, by the way, right? So
I know,
really
me too.
Bullish on the Lightning Network. It's just pins out differently than we initially anticipated, but that's fine.
We're being honest about the limitations. right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now we realized the community as a whole, or the whole operators of Lightning nodes. Actually, I've done my personal Lightning node. Even Michael, our CTO, he was running a personal Lightning node until very, very recently. Said, okay, I can't do it anymore. It doesn't make sense. The maintenance, it just freaking doesn't make sense. Anyhow, so I'm incredibly bullish because the Lightning network has a couple of properties that are unmatched, that exists nowhere else. And that is not only that the payments are fast, but that they're instantly final. And that's just amazing. And you don't have that practically anywhere. I think payment channels for the Lightning Network is the only technology that gives you this. And this is amazing for commerce, for any cross-border transaction, for anyone that basically receives a payment and knows it's final. It cannot be reverted. Even the Bitcoin blockchain does not give you that, right? So Bitcoin always has like the reorg risk, and you wait like 3 blocks deep, 6 blocks deep, so that the reorg risk is, low enough so that you can move on. The fact that the Lightning payment, once it executed, actually already has the property after 5 seconds, this is just mind blowing, and this is useful for so many things, and that's beyond just paying things on the internet. I'm still convinced. I was very early with OpenDex back then, but there will be trading networks leveraging the Lightning Network for this specific characteristic. And yeah, another thing is evolving. I see it evolving into a better functioning professional, but better functioning network, where we will see less and less failed payments, where we see more people actually interacting. So it doesn't mean necessarily that the Lightning Network has to grow slower, stop growing or even become smaller. Not at all. It can still grow, because I think the better it functions, the more professional entities we actually onboard. Right now, we have Lightspark as the only provider, thanks to David Marcus, that has access to global fintech players. In my opinion, all fintechs like with Revolut as the pushing it forward and being the example out there. Others have to follow suit. I'm pretty sure an N26 and all these fintech neobanks, they will have to do the same thing, and there might be more companies of the likes of Lightspark doing that thing, or there might be even bigger companies doing it non-custodial like we do. Like technically we could provide the same service, but we need a higher profile to be even, they wouldn't even talk to us, right? But that doesn't mean the Lightning Network gets smaller. Not at all. I'm very convinced that it will actually grow in transaction volume. And that's something, a misconception so many people have is, we had 5,000 Bitcoin capacity, now it's down to 4. It's shrinking, it's dying. It's like, no, you guys are coming from the shitcoin TVL world, where you just look at the numbers, it's smaller. It's like, no, River does very, very, very good analytics about the Lightning Network based on what they see on their node, and we do too. We look closely into our routing volume, and it's growing. It's growing. Our swap volume is growing. The routing volume is growing. It's just the Lightning Network, through the professionalization, is becoming more efficient, meaning you need less capital to move more money. Money velocity is increasing. That's exactly what you want. So,
yeah,
in my opinion, the future is bright.
Yeah, I'm incredibly bullish for the Lightning Network. I think I heard Ben Ark say something on another podcast where he was like, Bitcoin went through the same thing where everybody went off and left it for a little while. And then when people came back, they were just pleasantly surprised of all the building that happened. And it's kind of similar. Like, people left to go build on all these other things. And when they come back, they're going to see all the people that stayed building on the Lightning Network, and they're going to be like just floored by what's been going on. And like you said, the velocity of all the transactions and payment volume is just going to keep increasing. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add one more thing. So Lightning is not all, adding on to, obviously biased in that regard, but I see, Roy coined the term Lightning as the connecting tissue between not only a lot of things and entities and retail users and merchants, and between big players. I see it also as the connecting tissue between other Bitcoin layers, so that Lightning established itself as like the standard. Nowadays, it's a no-brainer For Fedi, it was a no-brainer to make Lightning the connecting interface, right? Because small amounts are more than viable, incredibly fast, instantly final. I can give you your eCash immediately. But for Arc, it was the same thing. Jero started talking to us like, I don't know, a long while back, like, guys, I want to work with you because Lightning has to be the interface for people to onboard them onto the Arc, right? And that's how it is with all evolving Bitcoin layers, which will have many, many more in the future. That Lightning is the standard to connect them all. That's really how I see it, and that's this use case that has nothing to do with merchant payments and day-to-day payments, but actually moving your Bitcoin in this layer because there's something you can do with your Bitcoin up there. Let it be some DeFi stuff or some really cool financial product that will be built on Arcade in the future. So that's probably makes me even more bullish about Lightning, that it already established itself. It's not an if, it's already there. It's a standard.
Yeah, I think Lightning's just a phenomenal brand in itself. It's just so cool. Anyway, Kilian, thanks so much for giving me your time today and telling me all about Boltz and its history, and thank you for being so generous with all your information and sharing how to build a Bitcoin company or a Lightning company, Lightning native company at that. Tell us where we can go find out all about Boltz and any other information that yeah.
Yeah, I think on Twitter you search for Boltz, we're pretty much the first result that comes up. The website is boltz.exchange. And there we have linked our blog. So blog, we usually push out product updates whenever we launch something new. It goes out on our blog. And for the technical listeners or other Lightning companies, builders, definitely have a look at our docs.boltz.exchange. There we talk a lot about our API and how you can integrate Boltz into your application platform or product.
Awesome. Thanks, Kilian.